We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing okay, considering the game. I think I finally emotionally recovered. For those of you wondering what it's like to be a Brit who watches NFL and writes about it, my Tuesday morning, Shane, was wake up at 5 a.m. And start watching the Eagles. And by about 6:50, I thought it was done. So when the Eagles were about 99% sure of winning, I was pretty chill. The wife came downstairs and she was like, all going well? You look pretty chill. I was like, yeah, just sitting there eating, like, drinking a coffee, like, yeah, it's all fine now. Basically, just got to finish it here. And 2 minutes later, she comes in and I'm looking a bit panicky. And I'm like, oh, well, actually, they might make a game of this after Saquon's drop. And then 5 minutes later, day's ruined. I have to literally turn it straight off, go upstairs, get dressed, go straight to work. Got back from work and then spent my entire evening watching the game again. So I feel like I don't get that Monday night sleep where some Eagles fans maybe don't sleep very much, but they can at least sleep it off and wake up Tuesday nice and rational. I am fuming all day at work, and then I'm spending my evening, while still angry, watching the film, trying to be professional and not just film every bad play and post it on Twitter and say, look how bad this is. So I think I managed to calm down, but I stupidly watched the defense first, which made me more angry. And then by about 9 o'clock in the evening, I was a bit more chill because I'd watched the offense. I sort of recovered. So not that anyone was wondering, but if they were wondering what it's like to be a Brit watching a game at 5 a.m. and then covering it in the evening, it was not the most fun Tuesday I've ever had. It would have been a lot more enjoyable if the Eagles had managed to win. But I'm sure I'm not alone in making that statement.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never tracked this, but I feel like I posted the highest percentage of the whole game in All-22 clips on Twitter ever. I posted 62 plays. I'm not sure how many plays were in the game, but I clipped up and posted 62 All-22 plays to Twitter. So I was in it this week. And we're going to dive in. We'll tell you guys what we saw. Before we do that, though, just want to mention our Patreon again. If you really like the show and you want some additional perks and content, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/ontheshanepage. We have a $3 and a $5 a month tier. It gives you a lot of cool perks, access to a Discord, access to an ad-free version of this podcast. You get to vote in a player spotlight poll to give us a specific player you want us to watch closely. You get some bonus content in the form of Q&A episodes, and I'm going to begin posting my All-22 Jalen Hurts pass game reviews exclusively to Patreon as well. So if you enjoy the show for less than the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you can help support us in that way too, and we would really appreciate it. Jonny, now that we're done with the self-promotion, I feel like we should dive into the defense first here. Let's get angry first, and then we can talk about the positives. Does that work for you?
Yeah, let's get it out of the way, Shane, because it wasn't very good, was it? So let's start negative, and then we'll try and end in a little bit of a high, because it's been a negative couple of days, man. So let's get it all out of the way.
All right, well, let's start off with the player spotlight. We put the poll out on Discord and our Patreon, and you guys voted for Bryce Huff to be the player that we spotlighted. And so I'm going to talk about Bryce Huff. I'll show a few clips, and I'm also just going to talk about the pass rush in general. And so on this first play that I have clipped up here, this is the Eagles. Bryce Huff's going to be at the bottom of the screen here. And this is the Eagles sending 4 rushers against 5 out routes. So it's 3 one-on-one matchups, a 1 double team. And if you watch this play, if it'll play here and not freeze and continue to freeze, just nobody wins. I have no idea why this keeps freezing, but Kirk Cousins crosses the line of scrimmage at 5.24 seconds. Like, how are you supposed to it's Kirk Cousins, man. He can't move. Like, what are we doing here? How is it that we have this much time? And we'll just roll it again. I think it'll play this time. I reloaded my browser, but just nobody wins. Like, the coverage is great, and Kirk Cousins is able to scramble there, and that's just not something that should be happening. I'll show a couple more plays here that talks about Huff. This next one, he's just going to get chipped out of the play by the tight end. Like, he never even reaches the offensive tackle before the ball is out. And so, yeah, you got chipped, but you got to be able to get through that. He's trying to get out into his route too, like at least make the offensive tackle work, and he just never had to. And then on this last play, the Falcons are actually going to double team both defensive tackles. And so they're leaving both edge rushers one-on-one. Bryce Huff is actually one-on-one with a tight end. They left him one-on-one with a tight end. And I put a snap timer on this one too, and you can just watch. But yeah, it's play action, but Kirk Cousins completes that play fake and holds the ball for another 3.5 seconds, and Bryce Huff never gets close, and neither does anybody else. So the pass rush was, you guys all know the pass rush was really bad. You don't need me to tell you that. I went back and looked, and there were 15 passing downs that Bryce Huff played on. He dropped into coverage once, so he had 14 pass rush reps. 5 times he was one-on-one with an offensive tackle. 2 times he was one-on-one with a guard through a stunt. Once he was one-on-one with a tight end, that play I just showed. And then he was chipped 3 times. And I said 3 of those impacted the rush, probably more than they should, and 3 of them really didn't. He just didn't do anything. I put this on Twitter earlier, but in 3 seasons, the Eagles have spent 3 first-round picks on the defensive line in Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Nolan Smith. They have signed Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff to a combined $91 million in contracts. Through 2 games, those 5 players have combined for 0 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and only 5 stops. So, I mean, the defensive front it simply has to get better, and we'll get more into that as we go along. But that's my thoughts on Bryce Huff. I don't know if you've got anything you want to chip in on him, or if you want to just dive right into your next point, but take it away.
No, I'm going to go pass rush as well before I talk about mine. I'm going to get really mad about run fits, actually, which makes me more annoyed. And I try not to moan too much on here because coaches know way more than us. But I feel like last week I was pretty negative about the Eagles' run defense, and I could see this coming. And not to say I told you so, but I do feel like a little bit I was just watching the same thing happening. I was priced up a lot. I obviously do free agency reviews for Bleeding Green. I think they signed him at a time I was pretty free work-wise, and I sort of got into it. This is not the same guy. Like, I almost feel like, Shane, there has to be something going on. Like, I don't want to say, oh, the money's got to his head and he's not training, but I knew the early down stuff might be a problem, and the early down stuff is absolutely a problem. I called him borderline unplayable, and I thought maybe that was a bit of a hot take. And then I saw Kempsky come out today and just flat out called him unplayable. He is literally, like, I don't want to exaggerate, he is not player. He gives you absolutely nothing. Like, he can't drop into coverage, he can't rush. People can moan about Nolan Smith pass rushing, and we have on this podcast all off season told people to maybe relax a little bit on him, but he's still a very good run defender. There is literally nothing. Like, he's not even like Jalix Hunt, who can drop into coverage and give you a bit of athleticism. Huff can't really drop into coverage. The only thing I'd say is, like, maybe he's been putting on weight. He doesn't look it, but maybe he's bigger because he's trying to play early downs. Maybe his head's swimming and he's thinking of so many different things. And like on that tight end rush, he's trying to think about maybe he's meant to be in coverage if they do a certain thing. Like, there has to be something, because I know people have said, oh, well, he's playing an early down, but I'm talking like just pure pass rushing. Like, he's doing absolutely nothing. And I tweeted something from PFF yesterday. His pass rush win rate has been like 1st and 3rd the past 2 years. Like, this is not a fluke. The Eagles didn't sign a guy and all of a sudden, they signed the wrong guy. They scouted him wrong. Like, just go and watch him. I know schemes are different, but when you're rushing the quarterback, you're one-on-one with a tackle. Like, he's just playing awfully. The pass rush is a real worry. I don't want to go too much in on Bryce Huff because I don't really know what else to say except the fact he sucks right now. And as I said, Kempsey called him unplayable, and I think I agree. Nolan Smith gives you stuff on early downs in the run, but Nolan Smith is not a good pass rusher, and we have known this for a while. Josh Sweat looks like he's done, and he looked done last year as well, and I was really surprised the Eagles moved Reddick and not Sweat. I think a lot of people were in the offseason. Reddick had his bad moments, but Reddick is significantly better than what they've got currently. I'm less worried about the interior pass rushing. I think Jalen Carr will come good. I think Milton Williams, you can get something from him. I think they'll be all right on the interior. The thing that I found really weird before I get to my first point, because I'm waffling for way too long on pass rush, is that they didn't really do anything creative in the pass rush. Like the Eagles suck at stunts and twists, and they've sucked at stunts and twists for years. I just don't think they have the personnel or the defensive line coach who runs it very well. But I expected Fangio to like bring more 5-man pressures, bring more simulated pressures, like bring a nickel cornerback, bring a weak side linebacker more. We know he can do all that stuff, and they just didn't really do any of it, which I'm a little bit of a loss about, to be honest. I know you focused on Huff there just very quickly because we haven't even started moaning yet. This is point 1, which is pretty scary. Is there anything else you wanted to add just specifically on the pass rush? And then I'm going to get into a bit more of a philosophical point for my first one.
Yeah. I mean, with Huff specifically, he's in a new scheme and he's taking on a new role. And so I'm not abandoning hope on the guy. I'm not jumping ship on him. Oh, we got a comment from Austin here in the chat saying maybe we could trade Huff to the Jets for Reddick. And then he said, joking, ... unless. I mean, the thing is, Hassan Reddick also, he's not playing on without getting a new contract. Hassan Reddick was not good down the stretch last year. And so it just kind of is what it is. I think your best chance to make it work right now. And we had another comment from C Money on Twitter asking, can the defense be fixed? And we'll get into that with some of the run stuff too. But I feel like your best plan of action right now is to play Nolan Smith more early downs, play Bryce Huff less downs, pass rushing downs, like the Jets were using him, and allow him to attack and let him try to get those instincts back. But I mean, in this game, Nolan Smith played on 1 first down and Bryce Huff played on 10 first downs. And I think that's maybe not the usage that you want to use. So that's the adjustment I would probably make right away, pass rushing. Eventually guys just got to win though.
Yeah, we're going to get into it, Austin. I'm not fully like negative, by the way. I'm going to be negative today when we talk about the defense. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not like the Eagles season's over, like they're dead. I'm not at all. I think there's maybe a little bit too much negativity. I think it's a new scheme. We did warn people the scheme's quite complicated. So I'm not like the season's over, the defense will never be good, but clearly there are concerns. I'm going to get into my first point, which Shane, when you probably read, I put it into the chat, you're probably like, what the hell is he going to talk about? I guess I'm going to talk about Fangio being like, I put it in the comment as like passive/aggressive. And what I mean by that is I hate passive defensive schemes. I've long hated the idea that you just get run on and run on and run on, and then you essentially bend but don't break. Say what you want. All right, Shane, say what you want to say about passive defensive schemes. Like the Eagles defense, despite getting run on all of the time this game, Falcons first drive punt, Falcons second drive punt, Falcons third drive field goal, Falcons fourth drive field goal. They go in at halftime giving up 6 points. Now, I think you can argue the Eagles defense sucked all game, and they sucked in the first half as well. I think that is like a perfectly fine comment to make. First drive of the second half, they get another field goal. So you've essentially given them 9 points, and you're down. I think they get the ball back with about 7 minutes or so in the third quarter, and the Eagles have only given up 9 points. So I don't like giving up chunk runs, all right? But look at scoring around the NFL. The too high thing is here to stay. Light boxes are here to stay. Teams are having all this success. Scoring is still dramatically lower. Like, there is something to be said for being passive. So what I completely don't understand is if you're going to be passive and you're going to basically say, do you know what? We're going to stick in 4-man fronts. We're going to keep down too high. We're going to play 6 in the box every single time you're on outside zone. But when you get into the red zone, we're going to make you kick a field goal because then it's really hard to run the ball. And actually, our pass coverage is so good that we can stop that. Like, do you know what? I don't like that because I think mentally, philosophically, anyone who's played sports knows that just getting beat consistently over and over again is not good to you psychologically. And I think mentally running the ball does a lot for an offense as well. And I've always believed in this, Shane. You know I love running the ball. So I'm not saying I agree with this. But whatever you think of the Eagles defense, and I thought they were bad all game, on the first 5 possessions, they'd given up 9 points. And the reason why I say passive or aggressive is why the hell, with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, do you send a cover 0 blitz? And I know it's only one play, but it just screams to me like a lack of almost like a clear philosophy of blitz 5, send a simulated pressure, do something, but sending cover 0 is about as aggressive as it possibly gets. And I mean, you can bring up the play actually, Shane, if you want. Sorry, I should have given you warning. I know you probably have the play in your own clip. It is on my film thread somewhere as well. I wasn't going to do a film analysis, so I'm not going to break down the play because I think like everyone's seen it. Long story short, Kirk Cousins throws it deep to Darnell Mooney. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is expecting a quick throw, but once again, the pressure doesn't get home. And then they have a 41-yard touchdown. And like, maybe it's just me and I shouldn't care about it, but I'm thinking that defeats the whole point of being bend but don't break. If the whole point is we're going to let you run and get down into the red zone and then sort of shut up shop, I just don't get sending a cover 0 blitz in that situation. We might have been frustrated with how the game was going, but the Eagles will look at it and say, well, actually, they were winning and the Falcons offense wasn't scoring a great deal of points. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird point for me. I'm just a little bit like make up your mind. Like if you're going to play a passive style, then stick to a passive style. If you want to get aggressive, don't just call like a random cover 0 blitz in the third quarter when you've basically not blitzed all game. Don't be afraid of like keeping the bend but don't break thing. I just found that play overly aggressive, and I'm saying that as someone who wishes the Eagles were more aggressive. I think they could just done it in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
I'll leave that for now because I think we need to get going on the run fits because otherwise we will talk for an hour about defense. There's quite a few comments coming in, one by Richie as well, saying about the last play. We will get to that when we do the offense. So just hold fire, Richie. When we get to the offense, we will get to that one.
It's also worth mentioning on that cover 0 blitz, Kirk Cousins has 2.48 seconds from snap to release. You can't give that kind of time on a cover 0 blitz. Somebody's got to get home faster than that. But I digress. Let's get into the defense and the run fits. I've got a couple of plays that I'm going to talk about, and then I'll turn it over to you. And you're the run game guy. So, but here's my thing. Here's my thing. I'm going to show the first 2 plays of the game. Okay. The first play of the game. Just look at the alignment. You've got 2-2 techniques. Maybe that's a 3 technique. He's kind of close there. And you've got wide 9 alignment from your defensive ends. Like the problem with this is it allows a really easy double team on the defensive tackle, and it allows a really easy kick out block on the defensive end. And so you've got just all kinds of room to pick your lane that you want to run in. We see it here again on the first play of the game. Look at that hole. Like there's just massive holes that you can choose to run through. And that alignment is setting you up to fail, in my opinion. We've got it again here. Again, you can just watch it to show I'm not cherry picking plays. This is literally the exact next play. It's just tough. And so here's a play where everything goes right, and the Eagles are going to get a stop from this alignment. The run's going to go to the left. And what I want you to see is Josh Sweat attacks the offensive tackle to condense this hole. Jordan Davis does a really good job of fighting this double team and working towards the B gap. And Nakobe Dean's going to be outside. And look how small this hole is. Our backside defensive tackle's over here. Jordan Davis essentially pushes his guy into the running back's legs, and Nakobe Dean cleans up this tackle. Here's the problem. Everything went perfectly up front, and the guy that makes the tackle is only free because there were 2 guys to block a safety and a linebacker, and they both ran at the safety. Like if one of these guys blocks Nakobe Dean like they're supposed to, Bijan Robinson is still regaining his footing and getting this ball upfield. And so, we can talk about the run defense, and, we can talk about the linebackers struggling. We can talk about defensive tackles struggling. At the end of the day, this was a choice made schematically where everything has to go perfectly every play, or you're giving up these massive holes. And the Eagles just did not adjust. Like by my charting, the Eagles ran an odd front 4 snaps in the entire game, and 2 of them were on the goal line. And they consistently use these wide alignments from their defensive ends. You've got to close that gap up. You've got to do something. You can't just continue to get gashed like that. And so, C-Money asked earlier, can the defense be fixed? If I was game planning for the Saints game, I would run a whole lot of 5 down fronts and make the Saints beat you through the air. Like Maybe that's just what you have to do. And you can still bail a Zach Bond out off of the edge. You can still do that and only be rushing 4, and it's not great, but I would rather at least be able to stop one thing than just not be able to stop the run or the pass. So also play Thomas Booker more. Thomas Booker played 9 snaps in this game. He had more tackles for loss plus QB hits than Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, and Jalen Carter combined. So put Thomas Booker out there a little more, play some more 5-man fronts, and I think that helps you out a ton. I think we're not talking about the run defense at all if you get into more 5-down fronts.
Yeah, I'm going to lose my head a little bit now. I feel like, Shane, I've been bottling this up for a while. So as you said, I'm a big run game guy. Like, it's the thing I enjoy the most, which makes me probably quite unusual in football. And I still believe, like, fundamentally, if you don't stop the run early downs, your team is soft and your team is weak, and you will lose a lot of football games. And analytics sort of is not always true, and they will come back at me at that. But sort of mentality-wise, I believe it. If you get my film production, because I'm going to go through a number of plays here, I'm going to try and do it quickly. Good news, they're basically the same play. So this was a Falcons run game. Under center, outside zone, motion the receiver the other direction that you're running to get a linebacker to move, and then basically, as I said, just run outside zone. The Eagles decided to try different things, like occasionally, but they resulted in the same thing because everything they tried still involved 6 men in the box and a weird slanting defensive tackle and a 4-man front. And the other thing they also did, by the way, is if you want to play your numbers games, they always just left the edge unblocked because they're running outside zone. For some reason, the Eagles' edge defenders weren't crashing hard on the running back either. They were sort of watching for play action, which I found a little bit mental because Kirk Cousins was never actually able to carry it in like a bootleg or anything, but whatever. So they were always 6'5" as well. I know you've already shown this play, Shay, but go back to on my film thread, the first one. This was literally the first play of the game, and I'm panicking because just pause it now. And you've already mentioned the huge gap. Do you know what doesn't help is when you keep getting your defensive tackles to slant. Just watch Milton Williams on this play. And I'm convinced that everything I'm saying in this is not player-based. Like, he must be told to do that, right? Because if he's not told, then let's just give up and blame the players. But I would assume that Milton Williams is not first player of the game going, oh, good idea, I'll slant. That we saw it all over the film last week as well. Like, you can't play like that. I don't really know what to say. I hate to break it to people. Jordan Davis is better than what I've seen online this week, and I'm not a Jordan. A hell of a lot better against the run than he was this week. The Jordan Davis you don't want to see is as a 4-down front running against outside zone because laterally he's not it. You want to stick him as a nose tackle on a 5-man front with 2 defensive tackles either side of him and just say anchor. Just sit there. Anything inside you take. Anything to the A gap is yours. He's not a guy chasing outside zone. And you're right, Thomas Booker looked better, but Thomas Booker's obviously not bigger and better than Jordan Davis. It's just the case that the way the Eagles use Thomas Booker in this game suits him a hell of a lot more than it suits Jordan Davis. At this point, I feel like I was sort of losing it. There's my worst example, I think, is clip 3 on my run thread. And or my film thread even, it's not even a run thread. There is some passing plays in there. But you can just run through it. It's the same. It's the same. You motion to the other side and you run to that side. The Eagles' defensive tackles are nowhere to be seen. Reed Blankenship makes the tackle, but Reed Blankenship is coming from very, very far. When you play a too high safety look, that safety should be really close. Ideally, they should be able to help out as the extra man in the box. There's no way on outside zone Blankenship can get there. Even when he gets there, you're still giving up 12, 13 yards. The other thing on this play you need to look out for is Zach Bourne getting cut by Chris Lindstrom. Oh my God, I've never seen so many cut blocks on a game. Zach Bourne could not avoid Lindstrom. Do you know what would help, Shane? Is if you're on a 5-man front, because what do? It means every single offensive lineman has 1 man on them. So it means Chris Lindstrom can't just do that. I feel like I'm going a little bit mental because every play he essentially just cuts the linebacker. And if you stick Jordan Davis over the center and Jalen Carter and Milton Williams either side of him, the guard cannot just run out to the second level. This is a bit like schematic nerdy point, but 5-man fronts are normally unbelievable against zone running games because 5-man fronts essentially stop offensive linemen from getting to the second level, which is what makes a zone running game good. I've been saying for years that with this huge expansion in 5-man fronts across the league, Fangio style, gap scheme is where it is. Outside zone has not been anywhere near as efficient the last few years. You look at your old outside zone teams, your Shanahan, Jim McVay's, they're not running it anymore. Nowhere near as much as this because teams have stopped outside zone. The outside zone running game is nowhere near as efficient. And I don't have numbers, and I may be saying things that people would disagree with, but in a general sense, I've watched a lot of football. I've watched McVay and Shanahan, like the ultimate outside zone guys. And you look at a McVay run game now, and it's gap scheme, because that's how you beat five-man fronts. Because at five-man fronts, you can't get to the second level. And I'm watching Jordan Davis just chasing someone outside when he can't physically do it. Now, the Eagles' defensive tackles did not play well. Jalen Carter was not good against the run. Milton Williams got double-teamed way too often. Moro Ojomo got double-teamed way too often. But you're not setting them up for any success by consistently playing the same fronts. And what really annoys me is that you don't even have to go like heavy personnel. You could just stick Zach Bourne as an edge. Like, they did it loads last week. Zach Bourne would rotate in as an edge defender. And I saw some clips saying, yeah, but last week they got burned a couple of times. And they did a couple of times. Once they had a five-man front and the Packers ran a jet sweep. And you're sort of like, well, that's a bit of a, not a trick play, Jalen Reed's touchdown, but that's not a standard running play. That is deliberately designed to get outside of the Eagles' five-man front. And I get it. But even on that play, that's partly a failure because they were slanting inside again. Like, they just continued to slant. Like, I don't want to show too many examples, but go to number 5 as well on my film, Fred, because like, I was just sort of losing my mind at this point because I'm just watching defensive tackles. Here is Jalen Carter. My film clip sort of cut off early. But Jalen Carter's actually just like, he would go straight to him if he played with like gap and a half or whatever Fangio normally does. And he just literally runs away. And they're obviously gambling here. I have a feeling what's happened here, by the way, is a really, really good game planning by the Falcons. If you notice a difference, they actually run the same side as the motion. So I'm pretty sure Jalen Carter is fed up, or Fangio is fed up, or whoever's telling him to do this is fed up of basically them running the motion and running the other way. So they think, brilliant, we'll slant the opposite direction. And then the Falcons have called them out. It's very good game planning. But even on this play, Shane, Nakobe Dean, sorry, just really quickly on that same play. I know I'm going on a bit now and I will stop shortly. But Nakobe Dean runs outside of Bryce Huff as if he's got the edge and Bryce Huff is going inside. But Darius Slay is also on a cornerback blitz. So then Darius Slay is still like also doing what Nakobe Dean doing. So they end up with 2 players, both setting the edge. And the guard gets straight to Zach Bourne again. Austin has commented in with basically Bo Allen apparently did a really good breakdown and saying the D lineman was not square enough, so Lindstrom keeps slipping past the DTs. That is true. Lindstrom just continually walked past the defensive tackles. But it's not just a case of staying square, which is true. It's also because when they slant, you don't need to double team someone. Like, football is not simple. It can be simple at times, but Vic Fangio knows way more than we do. But I've seen a lot of Eagles 5-man fronts the past years from guys who learn off Fangio. Like, Fangio's penny front is legendary around the league. Teams are running a bunch of 5-man fronts. And all of a sudden, in a game when they can't stop outside zone, which historically is what a 5-man front is good for, I'm watching 4-man fronts, or you want to use your technical term, your penny or your nickel fronts. I don't care about that stuff. I just call them 4 or 5 because it's basically what it is. I know you said earlier on, same thing, 5-man front. They are just consistently running 4-man fronts over and over and over again. Just very, very, very quickly, Shane. If you look at clip 11 for me, this is actually not a running play. It is a pass rush, but I'm just going to use it to show my point. If you just pause it right at the start, what the Eagles have done here is they actually haven't got a different personnel. There's no different personnel here. Zach Bourne has just gone to edge. So Brandon Graham's kicked inside. Thomas Booker's kicked a nose tackle. And Jalen Carter's also at 4i. And the second you press play, and I'm not going to do a pass rush thing here, but Jalen Carter wins easily. But this shows like what happens if you go to a 5-man front. You get one-on-one matchups with defensive tackles. And for those wondering, well, why don't everyone do it? Well, look, of course, you lose a guy in pass coverage. Of course, that's a problem. Like, the Eagles send 5 here. So you're essentially a man down. I totally get that. But I don't care. My first priority is stopping the run on early downs, because you cannot play a game of football where the other team is just consistently walking all over you. I will blame individuals, absolutely. The Eagles are not good enough in the interior right now. But to not give like any criticism to Fangio is pretty laughable. I know I've gone on for about 20 minutes. Someone said about making it like better, or how do we fix it? It is absolutely doable. Like, there are things you can put in place to be more stout against the run. It started with you drafting a nose tackle who excels in a 5-man front, whether you like Jordan Davis or not. His game is a nose tackle. I do not want to see him in a 4-man front chasing outside zone. There are things that this defense can do. They are not like inept up front. We're not talking like they've got a bunch of nobodies. They've got some decent players up front. Milton Williams is not suddenly terrible. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo and Thomas Booker, that is an okay defensive line against the run. There is something that as a coach you need to get out of them. It's not good enough just to say the players I've got are not good enough. So yeah, honestly, there's more I could get into. I could talk run fits for a long time. I think in my Bleeding Green article, I believe I have over 2,000 words. And I would bet that about 1,600 of them are on run stuff. So if you want even more because you're mad, please go and read that when it's published. But I did find this incredibly, incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it's what's the quote? If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree,
yeah,
that's putting Jordan Davis in a 4-man front and asking him to play outside zone.
Or the Einstein one, what was it? The insanity one is doing the same thing over and over again,
expecting different results.
Yeah,
which he didn't actually say, but I tweeted that earlier on one of those clips. But yeah.
Right, should we move on? Because otherwise we're going to spend too long on the defense. So we've got one final point, haven't we? We can run this one up a little bit quickly. I can do mine a little bit quicker as well. Okay. Do you want to talk about Quinyon Mitchell, which I think was another second place in our player spotlight this week?
Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell was second place in the player spotlight. And I spent so much time looking at run fits. I was like, crap, what else do I talk about? So let's talk Quinyon Mitchell. And I think Quinyon Mitchell is a positive you can take away from this game defensively. I just think he's such a good player. He had some breakdowns in that final drive, and I'll talk about that. But this is him early in the game on a 3rd and 5. The first down marker, I'll draw basically where it is right here on the screen. People hate off coverage, and I get it. And it looks bad when you run off coverage and you just give up a slant on short yardage for a first down. Quinyon Mitchell excels at playing off coverage. He knows exactly where the sticks are. And just watch him. Don't watch anybody else. Watch Quinyon Mitchell. Weights over his toes. We're watching. We're ready to break down as soon as you break in or out. Right? He's still right there. Boom. We're driving down on that, making a play at the catch point. He darn near comes up with an interception. It ends up with a pass breakup. Now, the flip side is you can get got on a double move playing a technique like this, and it'll happen sometime this year, and people will all be mad about it. But Quinyon Mitchell makes a really great play there to get the Eagles off the field. I think he's such a good player. He's not physical pressing in the way that Keely Ringo is, but he is so good in off coverage. And so I thought that was a really good rep. I thought he was basically not targeted much the rest of the game until the final drive when it all went south. And I think on the final drive, he might have gotten a little rattled or confused. You're a rookie in your second game. All of a sudden you're going tempo. You don't have time to think because the Falcons are going no huddle because they don't have timeouts. And I think that got to him a little bit. This one, I believe it's cover 6. And so he is like the flat, the squat defender on the cover 2 side. And you're going to get a vertical route that breaks out, a corner route basically, and you're going to get a route releasing to the flat. And in this situation, I think 2 things are true. I think one thing that's true is that Reed Blankenship should probably pick this up a little faster. He's backpedaling a long time, but I also think Quinyon Mitchell needs to carry this deeper as well. And it's just an easy throw. And he actually ends up not getting out of bounds because he falls down. But that's something that you can't really have happen. And then Mitchell gets got again later on this drive. This time he's essentially on an island and he's got outside leverage and he still gets beat outside. And you just can't get beat outside there and let the guy get in bounds. Like you can get beat inside and make a tackle. You just can't get beat outside. And so I thought Quinyon Mitchell made some mistakes on that final drive. I also think those mistakes are understandable, but I think Mitchell's a really good player, and I'm excited to keep watching him throughout the year.
Yeah, I have no problems with Mitchell learning, by the way. You could get some maybe better footage, as in better film in the last drive from Rodgers and maybe Ringo, but he's a first-round pick, and he's playing very well, and I'm fully okay leaving him out there. I think Austin comments there about taking the startup costs is true. I think that's just one of the things you have to accept. Right, I'm going to go through the last drive very, very quickly. I believe you have a wonderful graphic, Shane, that shows how much time Kirk Cousins had to throw on the last drive. I'm sure the listeners have read this online by now. But can you remind us, Shane, because I believe you have it up on the screen as well, what the Eagles started with on an obvious passing drive? What was their choice of 4-man pass rushers?
Yeah, so they have to throw, no timeouts. And the Eagles rolled out a defensive line of Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, and Moro Ojimo.
Yes, so I am probably the biggest Moro Ojimo fan on the Eagles fandom. Moro Ojimo has one big problem, which is obvious pass rushing. Milton Williams, in the same game, by the way, blew up Lindstrom and had nearly a sack in the red zone. Or no, he did have a sack in the red zone. Brandon Graham can play defensive tackle very easily. And in fact, he's probably the Eagles' best pass rusher still. So that to me is utterly mental. Like, I don't know what to say about that. How Ojomo is your obvious pass rushing defensive tackle. For those of you that can't see on the screen, it's basically lots of freeze of how long Kirk Cousins had in the pocket. Keep in mind, this is an immobile quarterback who can't move on a team that can't run. This is like the defensive line's dream. This is your absolute dream of this situation. An immobile quarterback literally cannot move, who is standing there in a must-pass situation. I actually moaned a little bit about Fangio on this last drive as well, and I haven't really seen this online, so I might be being too harsh. But the big play that they gave up, like the real killer, was the Quinion Mitchell cover 6 play that you mentioned, quarter half. Just go back to that play for a second. I know you've already shown it, but I want to just maybe like comment briefly on it. I'm not going to do much more on the final drive, in fact. But the thing that I guess bugs me more than anything is if you just literally pause it here when we start. Now, like cover 6 is perfectly fine, quarter half is perfectly fine. But do you know what, Shane? Like, is there anything wrong with running a bit of cover 2 man? I know we're not in Madden. I know that no one runs cover 2 man, and the Eagles literally never, ever run it. But Kirk Cousins cannot scramble. It's not the margin. He cannot move. Do I really want to call when they need 60 yards, like a play that requires my outside rookie cornerback to like, I'll read something vertical, but if something's short, watch that as well. And Fangio's a little bit complex, but I feel like that's unnecessary complicated. Like, stick 2 deep safeties, play cover 2 man, play with outside leverage. You don't get beat on the comeback because you got outside leverage. You don't get beat by this route anywhere near as badly. Or just play quarters. Like, quarters has just totally gone out the window these days. It's almost like because they want to run like cover 6 and cover 8. It's almost like they have to. Like, I'm staring at Quinion Mitchell and he's being asked to read like high and low, and he should go back. And I'm sort of just like, just simplify things on the final drive, man. Like, you don't have to be that complex. I think in one of the plays they dropped out Bryce Huff and rushed Nakobe Dean, and that didn't work as well. Like, I just didn't like the final drive at all. Considering their whole thing is that I think the rest of the game they were good in pass coverage. I think they were good. They were good at passing off routes in the red zone. The last drive just like fully went wrong in my opinion, and I feel like some of it was Fangio maybe being a little bit too complex when actually in an obvious pass rushing situation, I think you could go cover 2 man. Like, I really don't think there was anything that complicated about forcing them inside, leaving your cornerbacks right on the outside and tackling them in bounds. Because the worst thing about the play after this, the one that you've already showed, so we don't need to again, was Mooney getting out of bounds was an absolute nightmare scenario. Like, that is what you cannot have happen. We've already touched on the pass rush. We don't need to get into it again. But that last drive was really, really disappointing because the Eagles, even though they completely screwed up on the offensive side of the ball at the end of the game, they should have still been able to stop the Falcons, because going down the whole field without a timeout in under 2 minutes is not easy. And I hope Fangio learns from that a little bit. And when you know you've got a rookie cornerback on the outside, maybe make things a little bit easier. Don't even give him the option to think that, well, in this part of the game, I should follow this wide receiver if he goes vertical. Maybe just simplify things a little bit more for him. But yeah, should we move on to the offense, Shane, unless you've got anything else to say? Because that's probably the longest we'll ever do on the defense this year, unless things get worse.
Yeah, I'll just say for those listening that didn't see the graphic, it's a freeze frame of Cousins releasing the ball on all 6 passes. He had an average time to throw 2.96 seconds, and he never got touched. ESPN charts a pass rush win as defeating your block in 2.5 seconds or less. These were not quick throws. This was 6 plays, 4 rushers. That's 24 pass rush reps in a row where nobody won. And you can't have that, especially when you know, like you said, that there's just no chance that you're getting a run play. There's no chance. And so that's really bad. But that is what it is, I guess. We'll pivot over to the defensive side of the ball now, or excuse me, to the offensive side of the ball, where I think we can be a little bit more positive. And I say that, but I'm still mostly going to be negative. So maybe I shouldn't lead us off, but I will anyways. I just want to talk about RPOs and read options in general as it relates to the run game. I'll show a play here. This is going to be an RPO. The Eagles are going to throw the pass down here to, I think it's Britton Covey, but just watch Cam Jurgens off the snap. And again, he's run blocking because this could be a run play, but you can't get more than a yard upfield. And so, it's a bad job by him, but Jason Kelsey talked about how difficult RPOs are because if you don't fire upfield, oops, I did not mean to go on to the next play. If you don't fire upfield, you're not going to move people in the running game. And I just think the Eagles run their offensive line is so good. Just put the ball in the belly of the back when you want to run it. Just call a pass play when you want to pass. The Eagles have thrown the ball 8 times off of RPOs in 2 games. 4 of the 8 have been flagged for ineligible man downfield. 1 was declined because it was incomplete anyways. So Hurts is 2 of 5 passing for 10 yards on RPOs. If you account for penalties, that's 8 RPO passes for -5 total yards. But it's not just RPOs, it's the read option game too. And the read option game, I just want to go away. Like you look at this one and they're gonna read number 0 here on the edge. And if he crashes, we're gonna pull the ball. And he does crash. So we pull the ball. This is the correct read. Here's the problem. You don't block him so you can gain Jordan Mailata as a blocker. Watch who Jordan Mailata blocks. Nobody, right? Now, he doesn't know if it's a handoff or not, and so he's coming to block the inside of the linebacker, and you've got a tight end coming to block the outside. What good is it to leave an edge defender unblocked so we can double team the linebacker because we don't know which way it's going to go? What if we just said at the beginning, hey, we're going to run the ball, go block the linebacker, go block the edge? Like, it just doesn't work. You don't get much out of it. And you get like a yard or 2 and Hurts takes a hit. And then we've got another one. This one we're reading number 17 and Hurts makes the right read here. Like he crashes. See how he's closed? And yet he's still going to be able to get back outside. And he doesn't tackle Hurts. Hurts is able to get around him, but it slows it down enough that everybody else is there and we take a hit for a 1-yard gain. Hurts is so good as a runner when you design runs and as a scrambler when plays break down. You don't need this. And you don't need it to make your run game to Saquon Barkley work either. Just hand the ball off, call your design QB runs that worked so well, and just throw the RPO and the read option stuff in the trash.
Yeah, I guess be positive with all my 3 points, but I will just, my first point is on the running game. So I will sort of use your point to begin it as well. You made a really good point there that you don't need to do this. That's, I think, the key. The Eagles have got enough talent to not run this stuff. If you're a talent-deficient offense and that's one way of getting by, you can do it. You know me, I'm going to talk so much about mentality of running the ball. I think you want to say we're running the ball this play. Like tell everyone on the offensive line, it's a run play. Everyone knows. I don't like the idea of players not knowing. I don't like the idea of running backs not knowing if they're getting the ball or not. When they to running it, or are they still like wondering if they're going to be used as a play fake? I think the last clip you showed, Shane, is perfect. I just think defenses are unbelievable at playing the read option now. Like they're really good at it. Edge defenders are taught every day to look like you're crashing and still have enough of your body shape outside so you can get outside as well. Like we just don't see read option like we used to. Go back like 5, 6, probably even longer than that because I'm old. Like RG freestyle, and it was just like every game they were killing teams with it. Now teams win with scrambles from quarterbacks and design run games. Josh Allen wins with like QB counter bash and that kind of stuff. It's not just straight up read option. Rather than getting negative though for too long, I'm going to talk about run game, which I thought was awesome in this game, like really, really good. Mekhi Becton, Shane, is a machine. Breakout player of the year, baby. My prediction. I'm going to claim that after 2 weeks and just hope it keeps getting better. He is a freakishly strong dude in the run game. Cam Jurgens also looks awesome, so I'm taking that as a huge win because that was the one I was going to pick, and I mentioned that in the podcast as well. Always get two options out there, so you can claim both of them. They just look really good. Like we know Johnson's good, we know Dickerson's good, we know Mailata's good, but those two look legitimately good. Everything worked run game this week except the one under center snap, which we won't talk about today. But like pistol, shotgun, zone scheme, gap scheme, it all looks really, really good. I did want to talk about a couple of plays in particular that I absolutely loved. There's loads of clips I could show of Becton and Jurgens just basically double teaming guys and killing them, but I won't show them. I'm going to show my concept of the week, which is something we're also doing, and I'm doing for BGN as well. I'm going to call it counter. I'll do counter as a concept of the week, but there's 2 different examples of counter that I wanted to show. The first one is clip 3 on my film thread. So this is awesome. This is GH counter, which for those of you that don't know, that means the guard and the H back pull. The guard in this case is Dickerson, and it is, I believe it's Grant Calcaterra, isn't it? I assume it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and basically counter means that everyone from who's not pulling essentially blocks them almost like the other direction, and then the pullers come across the formation. And the way it's run is also same side, which is quite nice. It's just a really lovely play because there's 2 things that I love about it. Firstly, the Eagles introduce motion into this as well, so they get Grant Calcaterra on the move. And that really gives him a really good head of steam because Grant Calcaterra is not a good run blocker. But even Grant Calcaterra running very fast is good enough to block an edge. The other thing I love is that Lane Johnson on this play just joins Landon Dickerson, and they just send the guy flying on a double pancake. The poor linebacker has got Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson charging him at once. So it's a brilliant clip to show that.
Life comes at you fast.
Yes, it does indeed. But the other thing I love about Counter Shane, which is my clip, clip 9, which I actually put in this, by the way, scrap the RPO stuff. If you want to run Hurts, let's call some proper designed runs, which is how I feel. This is QB counter bash, which is probably my favorite run play in the world. You can run it from empty. It's the exact same. The only difference is the bash, meaning that you run it away and the quarterback keeps it rather than the running back. What I love about this play, Shane, is if you hit play, they have a wide receiver coming in motion, which pulls 55 out of the box as well, which means you get a box of 5 men. You're running into a box of 5. I'd rather Jalen Hurts didn't try and track the linebacker at the end and went down, I will admit. But this is awesome. The QB counter bash, I've said it before for the Eagles, I think it's a cheat code, because I swear the Eagles' design run game with Hurts is so good. And if QB injuries weren't a thing and Hurts didn't try tracking people, I think they could run it 10, 15 times a game, honestly. I think the Eagles running game is going to be very good this year. I think they will get better as well because there's still a lot of under center stuff that we haven't seen. I think the offensive line is playing really, really well. I haven't even spoke about Saquon Barkley much because, oh my goodness, is he good. I watched a lot of his Giants film and he was not this explosive last year. He is looking like Saquon Barkley at his very, very best. So yeah, scrap the read option, scrap the RPO game. Let's call some proper designed runs. Let the offensive line go to town. And I think what you're going to get into, Shane, is if they ran the ball maybe just once more, we might be having a very different vibe of the podcast. So is there anything else you want to add to the run? And then you can make, I think, your final annoying point, and then we'll end with just positivity.
I hope you mean the point annoys. It's annoying what they did, not that my point itself is annoying. But before we get into that, I haven't
heard your point yet, so I can't comment yet.
Austin chiming in on YouTube says the Eagles' offensive line is a joy to watch when it's not illegally downfield.
So good. It's just so well coached.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to get into the whole end of game situation management. I wrote a post and I sent it to BLG and he put it up on Bleeding Green Nation. So if you've already read that, don't skip ahead 2 minutes, but I'm going to rehash that here. The Eagles handled the end of game situation completely wrong. And it starts with the decision to decline the penalty on 3rd and 1, which was the correct call. And the reason that's the correct call is the Eagles have an automatic 3rd and 1 conversion. It's the tush push. And when you do that, you force the Falcons to burn their first timeout. And once you do that, you now guarantee that even if you don't pick up the next first down, you have a running clock for 40 seconds after the 3rd down. And so fast forward, the Eagles get a 4-yard run, a 3-yard run, you're 3rd and 3. The Falcons are out of timeouts and you call a pass. By calling a pass, you introduce the possibility that the clock stops, and it does. And you can say, he should have caught it, and he should have, and the game is over if he does. But a coach's job is to dictate the optimal strategy to win the game. It's the player's job to execute the coach's strategy. You can out-execute a suboptimal strategy and still win a game. The Eagles did it 11 times last year and started 10-1 on what we later found out was a very poorly coached team. You can fail to execute an optimal strategy. 2, and that's why we look at the process, right? And if we look at this whole process here, here's why it's a big deal. You pass and you stop the clock on 3rd down, and then you kick the field goal. You should be going for it on 4th down. Let's just say the Eagles run the ball and they get stuffed on 3rd down, and now it's 4th and 3. You should go for this. You're snapping the ball with 59 seconds left, where a conversion wins the game, and a stop means the defense is on the field with like 52 seconds, and the Falcons are on the 10-yard line. Analytically speaking, the Eagles would have actually had a better win probability if they missed the field goal attempt than if they made it. And it's because of the reason that teams that are down 3 tend to score 3. Teams that are down 6 tend to score 7. Like, kicking that field goal, you yield 20 yards. You go from the 10 to the 30 in exchange for no time loss, and you force the Falcons to be aggressive and go for the win. And so call that play on 4th down. Like, call the run play on 3rd down, get it to 4th and 1 and QB sneak it, get stuffed, call your run or call your pass play. Then all of that's fine. But they didn't do that. And then they kicked the field goal, and you have to stay aggressive. The Eagles went for it early in the game on 4th and 4 from the 10, and they didn't get it. It was the right call. Analytically speaking, that's the right call, even though a field goal would help you there. In this situation, the field goal actually hurts you. If you stay conservative both times, if you kicked the field goal in the first quarter and the 4th quarter, you win. If you stay aggressive both times, maybe you win. I don't know, but you can't ride the fence. And we've seen Sirianni do this. I mean, he did this in the Super Bowl, right? Punting on 4th and 4 in the 4th quarter with 10 minutes left while trailing by 1 when you've given up back-to-back 75-yard touchdown drives to the Chiefs. And then he doubles down on it in the press conference today. And it's just such a poor decision. And kicking the field goal up 3 is the bigger issue than the pass on 3rd down, but they're both issues. It's so well documented that kicking a field goal to go up 6 is the wrong decision always. I feel like everybody understands Saquon dropping the ball is a failure of execution by a player, but it was already a failure of strategy, even if Saquon catches the ball. And maybe we're not talking about it because, again, you can out-execute bad strategy, but both are at play here. And Nick Sirianni he doesn't call plays. He is supposed to be in charge of game management. And I just see him consistently mismanaging games. He is aggressive in the first quarter and the second quarter in a way that he consistently is not when the game is on the line. And that's an issue for me. Be all in conservative or be all in aggressive. But when you just pick and choose your spots, I mean, Jonny, you can go to a casino and you can win a hand of blackjack. That doesn't mean the edge for the house doesn't exist. It means you got lucky. But if you continue to expose yourself to that edge, the edge will show up. You either have to continue to be aggressive and eventually the numbers, the edge will win out for you, or just stay conservative. Like, pick a lane, but don't keep trying to sit on the fence.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. We've got a great comment with a slight curse word from Austin coming in, which has absolutely cracked me up as you were talking. Just saying all Lurie wants to do is for Nick Sirianni to follow a chart that says either go for it or don't go for it, and he's still effing that up. Yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, you're much better at the analytic stuff than me. I've read your article, of course, for the wonderful Bleeding Green. And I finished reading and I went, oh, well, it's obvious. Like, the numbers don't lie. And I've seen other things as well from like Eagles Eric online. Like, the numbers don't lie. You run the ball on 3rd down, but who cares? You go for it. And then you never kick it. You go for it again because you just don't want to go up 6, because 6 is a disaster because you give the offense the chance to be aggressive. Whereas if they only need 3, they play more conservative and it's in the back of your mind. You don't want to throw a pick. So you're checking it down, etc., etc. For Nick Sirianni to come out and like, what's the word I'm looking for? To double down on his, that's the word, double down on his decision. Is he going to be like the first Eagles coach to win the Super Bowl and get fired, which would be amazing? Like, I don't know, man. Like, Jeffrey Durie's gonna like, he's not gonna stay the Eagles coach. Like, I don't know. He better be unbelievably good this year. The Eagles better be seriously good, because Kellen Moore head coaching job is not far around the corner. I'm telling you. Like, you can't be doing that. that your job is to follow we're an analytical organization. We have been for years and years and years. You can't go against the analytics because I've done my own studies. Like, what are you, AI? Like, who on earth there's so many things that I've read from you and from others that seem pretty obvious now. And what's funny is I almost don't always blame coaches in the moment, because I think in the moment there's a lot going on. Like, they're a stress, and you might get, oh, it's a 4% chance better to kick. And you're thinking, yeah, well, screw you, Mr. Computer. Like, I'm in a game. I don't trust this. I've seen Kirk Cousins not move. And I get that. I totally get that. I think there's a human side to coaching. But then what you normally do is screw up and come out in the press conference and go, oh, yeah, that was an absolute disaster, wasn't it? Like, I got that horribly wrong. Sorry to the players. Sorry to the fans. We won't do it next time. So double down on it. And, like, I'm convinced that I've done my studies. Like, what, you're a head coach? Like, what time have you got to go? And you're just sitting there, like, what? I know you're not calling plays, or you're meant to be in every meeting. What do you mean you've done your studies? Like, there are things out there that just produce data for people. Like, you don't need to do studies. Just learn how to run an analytics website, plug in some numbers, and it will literally tell you. Like, I find that absolutely mental that he's come out and said that. It's just an easy thing to just admit you were wrong. And it doesn't bode well for how the Eagles season, or how they're going to view Sirianni. It's sort of weird that I feel like Sirianni doesn't even have a major impact on this Eagles team. It's going to come down to Fangio more than him, which is sort of bizarre, because he's the head coach. But that's just really, really odd. I know Dan Campbell screwed up week 1, and he came out and was like almost in tears, like apologizing about where the situation he put the Lions in. It's just odd. It's just odd, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not a numbers guy. You know me. I'm very much a film guy. And that's not because I'm anti-numbers. It's literally because I don't have the time to be a stats guy as well. Like, I physically do not have the hours in my day. If I was a head coach and I had all day, don't get me wrong, I'd be very analytically driven. There are certain numbers that I disagree with. There are certain ways I'd look at analytics. But that's like pretty black and white. It seems to me like every single number seems to suggest you go for it on fourth. You do not kick the field goal. And yeah, you didn't really mention it too much, but running the ball on third live, I was like, oh, well, he dropped it. It's a little cool, fancy play call. But actually, no, hindsight, you have to run it. Like, you have to burn 40 seconds off the clock. You only need like a yard or two anyway. Yeah, the Eagles lost this game for a number of different reasons, but the number one reason is their head coach. And that annoys me because it's literally his job to be good in these situations. He doesn't do a huge amount else right now. So I've never been anti-Sirianni. I think people are way too harsh on Sirianni. I understand why people are harsh on him, but I've always been a little bit more like complimentary of him, and don't think that you just get the Eagles' best winning record of all time or whatever he has by fluke. Like, I think he knows stuff. But I am as down on Sirianni as I've ever been after watching that press conference, unless every number that you and others are tweeting are wrong. And his internal studies are correct, and we're all wrong. It just doesn't seem very clever to me. But anyway, I'm not the maths guy, so I think we should move on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's also a decision that you don't make on a sideline on a 40-second play clock in the fourth quarter of a close game. That's a decision you make in a meeting room on a Tuesday morning. And when you get to that point in the game, it's just, hey, we're going. Like, we've trained for this. This is what we do in these situations. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants and, oh, in the first quarter we go for this, in the fourth quarter we don't. And I've seen a lot of discourse on Twitter, analytics are ruining sports. Analytics just explain to you what's already happening in sports. It's literally just telling you, based on decades of information of how actual games have gone, you have a better chance to win if you go for it than if you kick a field goal. And it's just interpreting more data than you could ever possibly go track down yourself. So anyways, I digress. Let's move on. I think you wanted to talk about the final play in this game for the Eagles offense.
Yes, I did. In a weird way, I'm sort of not negative about the final play, although it was an interception. So I assume you've got the play, Shane. Can you bring it up, whether it's my film thread or your film thread? I'm not fast. So the thing I want to talk about here is basically just, I saw some comments like, is it Hurts' fault? Did he choke the game? And no, I don't think, first of all. I think sometimes the defense plays ball too. And I think Jesse Bates makes an unbelievable play. But also, I feel a little bit like JT O'Sullivan on the QB school, talking about offensive design on this one. I feel like the Eagles could do a couple of things differently. And it's an interesting debate to have. So first things first, if you look at the play, the Eagles are running smash. Essentially, they're running a forward smash with a corner route from Devontae Smith. And Saquon Barkley runs the underneath route. The Falcons rotate into single high. and the safety actually comes downhill to cover Saquon Barkley, which is literally exactly what the Eagles want, because now you get a corner route with Devontae Smith one-on-one, single high safety. So I've seen people say, oh, Hurt should have looked at Brinton Covey coming across the field. There's no reason to. Like, I hate to break it to you, why I hate steal shots, you don't read. It's actually more of like a deep overshane than a dig. I'm being pedantic, but the reason why I mention that is because I actually like the idea of a dig more, and I'll explain why. So Hurts isn't looking anywhere else. He's got single high. The second he sees that safety rotate, he's not getting back to the middle of the field. He also has pressure, and he sort of has to throw it. He cannot take a sack here. That sack is an absolute disaster. So when he looks up and he pulls it here, he sees that safety rotating. He thinks, brilliant. This is literally the perfect call. Kellen Moore's about to win the Eagles the game. He's probably thinking right now, I've got this. The problem is, I love Devontae Smith as much as anyone. I think Devontae Smith is a top 12-ish receiver in the league. I think he'd be a lot of teams' number one. He's not A.J. Brown, sadly. And I think it's fair to admit that now. I think we've seen how good A.J. Brown is. And he does get pushed out here. I did wonder about P.I. because he was a little shove. But he does get pushed off the spot. And this is like one of those one-on-one routes. There's no safety help. He does just lose, let's be honest. Devontae Smith does get beat here. If you go back, Shane, to the other angle, though, this is what annoyed me a little bit about design. And this is like a purely philosophical comment that I don't like fully
know what you're going to say.
Yes, right. So what I would want to say is Brinton Covey is running a deep sort of dig or over route, basically. And what that means is because Devontae Smith has been pushed wide, so Devontae Smith's fault here, because Smith has been pushed wide, they end up really close to each other. And if you're watching this, you can see it. But the other thing it does is that the Falcons have possibly the best center field safety in the entire league, I would assume. I don't watch a lot of other teams, but I've not seen a guy have as much of an impact in a while as Jesse Bates did against the Eagles. Jesse Bates has everything in his line of vision. He can see Devontae Smith and he can see Brinton Covey running directly across the middle of the field. And what that means is Jesse Bates reacts to this really, really early. And I think if Brinton Covey runs a straight go route from the slot, like he literally just gets up the field quickly, I think he can hold Brinton Covey. I think Brinton Covey can hold Jesse Bates because Jesse Bates can't just abandon the middle of the field as early as he has because he's got someone running directly towards him. It's not perfect and it's not a given and it may not happen because it may not be that Covey is there quick enough. But I think the Eagles could have maybe done something a little bit different here, offensive design-wise, to stop Covey being so close to Devontae Smith. The other thing he could do, I guess, is run like a proper dig, like a backside dig, not like a deep over, because he ends up drifting towards Devontae Smith. And I think in football, like the tiny, tiny details matter. And this is a very small detail. And by the way, you could argue it doesn't make a difference because like if Devontae Smith wins the route, we're not talking about this. But I think it's just worth pointing out. I think Kellen Moore called a good game. I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts in a second for my final point because I think he played well. It was just disappointing watching this play because I think the Eagles had the right call against the right coverage. And it was just frustrating that Devontae Smith didn't win. But it was also frustrating that the Eagles couldn't do more to hold the safety. If you want to be ultra critical, I think you could argue Hurts could do a little bit more to hold the safety as well with his eyes. But I think he's also getting blitzed and he's got a pass rusher in his face and he wants to look where he's throwing the ball in case he has to get rid of it early. So yeah, a little bit disappointing that play. But I feel like it was the right call. Just a couple of things design-wise I maybe would have done differently.
Yeah, so there's 27 seconds left and you've got a timeout. And you're probably targeting like the 40-yard line. That'd be a 57-yard field goal for Jake Elliott. So you need to gain some yardage, right? And pressure comes. I've seen people say just take the sack.
No, you can't.
The sack doesn't end the game, but it functionally does. Like now you're taking your last timeout with about 18 seconds left. And now all of a sudden you're at the 33-yard line. So we need to gain 27 yards and we can't throw to the middle of the field. So a sack essentially ends the game.
I agree.
I would rather see him just dirt the ball, just put it in the dirt at Saquon's feet here and live to play another down. I'm with you. The design issues, like for me though, you don't need a sideline throw. You have a timeout. And so I would like, and I think if A.J. Brown is in the game, this is different because this is probably A.J. Brown and this is probably Devontae Smith. And now that is not a S. I don't know why I put a P, and now at the snap, when you release inside, it's outside leverage. It's hard to throw an outbreaking route against outside leverage, immediately you could come backside to now it's Devontae Smith running this crossing route instead of Britton Covey. Like, I don't expect Hurts to progress back to Covey here. This is like Covey's first game actually playing wide receiver for more than 5 snaps. So I get that aspect of it. It is there. I'm with you. Like, just run. If you're not going to consider him, run him vertically to keep Jesse Bates. If you are determined to have Smith run that corner route, then I don't know, like, just let him read it by leverage. Like, what's wrong with telling Devontae Smith, hey, we're running a corner route or a post route, and you can do it based on leverage? Because if this is a post route, like if he pushes outside and breaks over the middle, of course you'd have Britton Covey running it. But if Britton Covey runs this off, you've got a big void there to throw it to, and you can use the middle of the field because you've got the timeout. And even if you use your timeout, you could still run a quick play and spike the ball to get a few more yards here. You could also have like Saquon Barkley running a Texas route here or something. So as the play is designed, I guess you just throw the ball in the feet, throw the ball at Saquon's feet. Maybe you progress to Covey. I don't think that's who you want the game in the hands of, though. But yeah, it's frustrating that it ends on an interception, especially because that's what people are going to talk about. I think Hurts should have put the ball in the dirt. That's what I would prefer. But like you said, I think there were some fundamental design issues on that play.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think they both had a good game. I think both Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts did. It's so weird that people come out negative of this game with Hurts, Kellen Moore, and Saquon Barkley because he dropped it. And Hurts was great. I thought the game plan was pretty good. I thought Saquon Barkley was awesome. But it's results over process, I guess, which is why I'm less annoyed at the offense because I can see the process, whereas the defense was just bad process all around. Right, we are nearly an hour and 10 in, Shane, and we've still got one more thing to do. So my point can be pretty quick, to be fair, because I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts. So I tell you what, why don't I go very quickly and you can finish off with the touchdowns? I think the touchdown is the best play of Hurts' game. It's just that last week we didn't really talk about Jalen Hurts. He didn't really come up as a point, so I thought I needed to mention him this week. First things first, his play against the blitz was really, really encouraging. Even the touchdown that was dropped to Devontae Smith when it was slightly underthrown, and there was another great play by Jesse Bates, by the way. That was against pressure, and Hurts knew exactly where to go with the ball. I think Hurts was very, very comfortable in the pocket. I think he was protected well. You're showing the play here. Although it's slightly behind him, I do think it is a decent throw. Most times it ends up in a touchdown. I think Devontae Smith should bring it in. But I also thought Hurts was really good as a runner. As a bit of a scrambler as well. I thought he was really strong. I think he had a good idea of what Kellen Moore wanted him to do. I know you said on the podcast last night that he was 11 for 11 between the numbers. I think he had a couple of middle of field throws that I really, really enjoyed. And I think he scrambled well as well. I think he looked as fast as he's looked in a while. So I was very happy with the player, Jalen Hurts. I think it's easy to be critical because of the interception, but he barely put the ball in harm's way. I think he knew what he was doing. And I think for all the comments about this being a new defensive scheme, this is a tough scheme for Jalen Hurts. This is not what they've done in the past. And the stuff against the blitz and stuff, he seems to have learned really well. So I would say big stock up for Jalen Hurts. And my favorite throw by a mile, and I'm interested if you agree, because I think he places this perfectly, but I haven't spoke to you about it. Talk to me about his touchdown to Devontae Smith for your final point to wrap up with a positive, because I thought this was a beauty of a throw from Hurts.
Yeah, you get Devontae Smith running. I mean, it's post route, I guess. There's not a lot of room here, but you're down in the red zone. And I thought live that maybe this wasn't the best placed ball. Watching it again, I think it's perfectly placed. And you just want a split field safety. Hurts opens up to the left to kind of hold that safety. And look at as Hurts is letting go of this pass. Well, as Hurts starts to throw, as he starts his throwing motion, we're throwing to Devontae Smith, who has two guys that could reach out and touch him right now. And he's putting the ball at the back of the end zone. I mean, like, Jonny, if I told you right now, like, draw it, well, you don't have the dot. I'm the one that can draw on the screen. But if I said, like, draw a dot where this pass should go for it to hit Devontae Smith, like, I don't know. I'll just guess, like, maybe like right.
Yeah, just
there.
to the right of the umpire at the back, right? Yeah, just
yeah.
Right.
So I'll say between the L and the O on all of us in the white. And then you just watch where it goes. And that's why I'm not an NFL quarterback, right? Because that's behind him. Hurts throws it behind him to set him down, and it's still further to the left of what I said. So I mean, it's just tough. Like, it's hard sitting here watching. I've watched this play a dozen times and still just like thinking through it, and I can't get it right. But he's got to layer this over a linebacker in front of the in line and between a closing safety. And I think he does a really good job placing this ball. I think you see it from the back view that he's worried about this safety coming across the field to put a big hit. And so he throws this ball behind Devontae Smith. And I wish the camera pulled up faster so you could see. But at the top of the screen there, like, see again, I was saying between the L and the O, it's between the A and the L. We're 2 letters off here. And he just puts it on him perfectly. It's touchdown. I think that's such a pretty pass. I thought it was one of Hurts' best throws of the game, although I did think it was a little behind initially. Watching the replay, I think that was just a beautifully placed ball. And Devontae brings it in. And it's a tough catch for Devontae too, but he brings it in for the touchdown.
It is a really good catch. I think it's fair to point out for Devontae, it's a really good catch. I think, like, in general, I'm okay if the offense has a few growing pains early on, which is why I'm surprised it's been quite good. I think the big thing for me was seeing Jalen Hurts take advantage of the middle of the field, be able to work in an offense that uses motion and play against the blitz. And we're 2 weeks in, and you'd have to say that it's not been perfect, but I think he has managed to achieve all of those 3 things as we stand. So I think there'll be some growing pains. I think there'll be some frustrations about the offense, but I think overall they look like a very well coached. And I think this answered the question as well, but they can succeed without AJ Brown. I think sometimes we've worried a little bit that, AJ Brown is so good that without him, the offense could crumble. Although they only scored 21 points, which does look lower. Obviously, we know at the end of the game, they had a few moments in the red zone where they really, really should have scored. And if they clean that up, all of a sudden, this is like a 30-point game. I think as on offense, they were quite positive EPA, in particular, throwing the football early on. So I think overall, this is another stock up for Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore.
Yeah, through 2 games, the Eagles offense ranks 7th in DVOA. They rank 6th in drop back EPA and 5th in drop back success rate. So the offense, and especially the passing offense, has been really good through 2 weeks. And I think you'll see higher scoring outputs down the road for sure.
Yep. I think, Shane, that is a long one. I think that about does it from me. Any final thoughts that you wanted to throw out there after a pretty negative start? At least we ended on some sort of positivity.
Yeah. Which I guess is the inverse of how the game went, because I felt pretty positive and then it came crashing down. So we just did it in reverse. But I guess my final thought is I'm not sure an hour and 12-minute podcast can be considered a long one anymore. I think this is just what we do, and we might just have to surrender to it at this point.
Yeah, I think early on sometimes there'll be some games that won't be dramatically changing. But yeah, I'm looking up EPA as well. The Eagles rank 6th. I think you might have said that, but 6th in EPA. They like a pretty good offense on nearly every metric. Top 5, top 6, essentially. New offensive coordinator. That is a pretty good start. But yeah, I would like to say final thoughts is just like everyone should probably calm down a little bit. Like, I'm annoyed as anyone at how this game went, trust me, and I'm as annoyed as anyone about watching the defensive film. But like, there is stuff you can do. This is not like Bryce Young with the Panthers when the guy can't see over his offensive lineman and is jumping, throwing the ball. Like, you can't change someone's height. You can change things that this Eagles defense can do. Like, there are solutions. It's not like everyone's injured and they've got nothing. There are absolutely things schematically that Fangio can do and has done in the past. It remains to be seen, of course, if he actually does them. But there we go.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of On the Shane Page. Shout out to our Patreon members. Really appreciate you guys. Everybody listening to the show, I appreciate you as well. Please go check out the Eagles Pin Pull Podcast Network. 6 long form shows a week, as well as a daily quick hitter. And I'm going to be the daily show in the morning. Phil is going to be traveling back from Mexico. So you'll hear me in your feed first thing in the morning, and you'll hear lots of great content throughout the rest of the week. So we will catch you guys next time, breaking down what is hopefully a victory over the Saints on next week's episode of On the Shane Page.